What if the key to building a legacy isn't just about buying properties, but about investing in the unseen assets, your mindset, your courage, and your ability to turn time into a weapon of wealth? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Carlos Inspire Show. It's about to go down today. I have my brother for another mother, Phillip Warrick, in the house. Phillip is a multi-figure real estate mogul, best-selling author, and capital raising powerhouse who has spent 23 years transforming lives through smart investments and smarter mindset shifts. With no further ado, on the stage, Mr. Phillip Warrick. How are you, my friend?
Carlos Siqueira. Hey, cool to meet. Good to be here, man. It's great to see you again. It's an honor to be on your show. Love it.
Man, always great honor to have incredible people on the show, Phillip. You know, I love people that been in the game for 10, 15, 20 plus years that have the receipts to prove it, not just talk about it. You and I know, bro, there's a bunch of fluff on the internet, people on YouTube and TikTok and Twitter act like they are a powerhouse, you know, in real estate, in crypto, in Forex, and all those things that people out there are struggling for money. You know me, I'm big in protecting money. I've
Yes.
been teaching wealth and finance for 20 plus years. I'm more about protecting the cash. You know, we do, you know the drill, right? We do more to protect $1,000 than to lose $1,000, you know, than to invest $1,000, right? So, and speaking of which, I want to actually give a shout out to one of my companies that I am a founder, Disruptors Code. Anybody here that you are looking to protect your cash, borrow your money tax free, withdraw it tax free, and most important, transfer tax free, reach out disruptorscode.com. Today we're doing our own self-sponsor
There
uh,
you
uh,
go.
uh, company, and we are helping a lot of people out there. As Robert Kiyosaki, he did a blog the other day, and he was talking about this thing is about to implode at any time, right? I mean, we see how real estate
Yeah.
is super overpriced. All these stocks and the banks, they over leverage. So at any point, this whole thing can implode. And according to Robert Kiyosaki, not a financial advisor, but I have helped made so many people, thousands of people in the last 20 years, wealthier and wiser. He said this thing can be worse than 2008. And I would hate to see my friends and my followers who are on their late 40s, mid 50s, and higher losing half of their portfolio by not getting a second opinion, not talking to more people. And we'd love to talk to you. And we have a lot of strategies that we can protect your money tax free, grow it tax free, and transfer tax free. So that's why there, shout out. But my friend, Phillip, wow, man, I'm looking forward, man, as you are a wealth of knowledge. You've been in the game for so long. And Phillip, I mean, you built a multi-figure empire.
Yes, sir.
But I wanted to start at the beginning. Like, what it was that moment that you literally, like, you realize real estate wasn't a career, it was a vehicle for freedom.
Love it. Hey, I love how you touched on Robert Kiyosaki because Rich Dad Poor Dad was one of the first books that set me on the path to actually continuous learning, this journey that we're on, right? With always renewing our mind and learning from people that are ahead, that are doing what we want to do. But to answer your question, man, I remember back when I was a senior in high school, and I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, when I go to college, if I go to college, what would it take for me to buy a house so that I can rent rooms out to my friends and their rent will cover the mortgage and I get to live there for free? That was my first kind of inspired thought with real estate. And Dad, man, he was a great. And I don't know if you know this or not, but my dad was a missionary in Brazil. So the first 10 years of my life where I lived in Brazil, we weren't well off. We weren't begging for money, but finances was always a struggle, right? As missionaries, we depended on the churches in the U.S. to support us. We had to come back to the U.S. to report to the churches that supported us, right? So I always felt like we were kind of like beggars, But Dad was a businessman. He knew business. He knew entrepreneurship. And when we came off the mission field, he started his own business. And so I learned a lot from dad. But one of the things that he told me is like, son, if you just save up 20% for a down payment and, build your credit up, I think that's a great idea. You should be able to buy a house and do that. Right. And so I set out on that journey. I was like, okay, I can do that. I was good at saving money. I was good at making money already as a young guy from what my dad had taught me entrepreneur wise. And I remember one night I was watching late night television, and there was an infomercial that came on, and there was this gentleman selling a home study system, how to buy houses with no cash and no credit. And I'm like, hold on a second. Is this a shortcut that dad didn't know about? Right. And so that's really what happened, man. I bought that course as a senior in high school and started going through it. And back then it was like, you had to wait for it to come in the mail, and you're watching videotapes, and, it had the booklet with all the things, and taught me how to find motivated sellers, right? People that need to sell their house, but we're willing to sell on terms. They're willing to let you take over their payments or seller finance it to you, right? So that was the beginning of the creative strategies of buying real estate that set me on this journey. And bought my first house at the age of 21, went full-time at the age of 23, and haven't looked back since, right? This is what we do all day, every day. And now we're on our 25th year of doing real estate, 22nd year full-time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great story. Did your father ever done the favelas?
We didn't do much in the favelas that I remember, honestly. We had a church. So my mom was actually born in Brazil. Her parents, we're talking back in 1955, right? They were missionaries there.
No, the favela is danger, man. Especially if you're as a white boy going to the favelas. My brother, he's white, green eyes, so even him, he couldn't go to the favelas. But the funny story about my brother: one time, somebody, because we live in the barrio, somebody, stolen his bicycle, and they didn't know that he was my brother because I'm a big brown bear. And then I went to the local bar where all the gangsters hang out, and I say, "Who's stolen my brother's bicycle? We poor as hell. We cannot afford to buy a bicycle that was gifted to us." And then people start talking around the neighborhood. A few hours later, the bicycle was dropped in front of our humble shack. Wow. So talk about the favelas. No, but man, I love that. And today,
man.
Man. You're talking about Kiyosaki. Actually, one of his mentors is one of a good friend of mine, which you know her as well, Sharon Lecter. So I want to give a shout out to our friend Sharon Lecter. Also, she's the rich mom behind Robert, behind the Rich Dad Poor Dad. And she's the co-author of one of my favorite books of all time, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Amazing book. Anybody dealing with mindset, mental health, just incredible book. And then you guys also saw my great friend Frank Shankwitz here as well. I often talk about him on the show, founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation. His slogan was, "Everyone can be a hero." And, the guy granted the wish of 500,000 kids, around the world before he died. And this kids had a clock. And he showed up, brother, the same way how your dad showed up, you show up, I show up. You guys know we are involved in a bunch of causes, handing cash to people in the streets, looking for women selling tamales and fruits on parking lots, and veterans. Hoorah. You guys know me, I'm big. I done a little bit of Marine as a young in Brazil. And today I also want to give a shout out to my brother, my mentor, my friend. We trade mentorship. Liz, the legend Brown, is his birthday. So happy birthday, legend Liz Brown, turning another year younger. And man, so I'm very excited. What a special day to be alive. As my good friends in the military say, every day is a good day to die. Let's freaking go. But speaking of every day being a good day to die, I want to talk about risk versus reward. My friend Phillip, you raise millions in capital. What's one miscalculation most new investors they make when chase safe returns, and how do you redefine risk?
So real estate investing can be risky, right? But we have to mitigate that risk by making calculated decisions. Yep. And most real estate investors or people getting started with real estate, they tend to only look at the purchase price, right? And the cash flow. And those are just two of the profit centers that I tend to focus on, right? So what I like to talk about is the 5 profit centers that we actually can look at when we're purchasing property. And there's really probably a 6th one there, but the first one is the one most people look at. Hey, can I buy the property below market value today? Right? That's equity capture. If the property is worth 100%, can I get it for 90% or 85%? And that's great, right? The second thing that we want to look at is, can we cash flow that property? Meaning that if we leverage that property with debt or take over existing debt, can the rental income from that property support the debt and give us cash flow to give us a return on our investment, right? The third one that I look at and that most people often forget about is principal pay down, because we're leveraging debt. Every time we make a monthly mortgage payment, we're paying down the principal balance of that loan. So we're increasing our equity position, right? And then cash flow we talked about, which is the difference between the monthly payment and the rent that comes in, principal pay down, and then appreciation. We don't buy for appreciation because, like you said, the market could crash, but historically over time, the market is going to go up, right? So if you use a conservative 3 to 5% value increase, if you compound that, it doesn't take but about 10 years for a property's value to double, right? But if we underwrite it conservatively, what's it going to appreciate over the course of 5 or 10 years as you hold that property as an investment? And then forced appreciation, right? If you're buying a property that needs repairs, when we do the improvements, is it increasing the value for more than what the improvements cost us, right? So those are the profit centers. And the way I alleviate risk is I make sure that no matter what the market is doing, the rental income can support and service that debt. So as long as that is all in place, we can make a sound investment. Now, all those profit centers might not be a home run on every deal. I may pay full price for a property if it's got a really good interest rate loan that's paying down really fast and a big cash flow spread, right? So in the absence of one of these profit centers, other ones might supersede, right? So we look at all 5 or 6 of those profit centers to really determine and underwrite to make sure that we're going to make money. Our investors that we're raising capital from or with are going to also make money and secure their income over a course of time, right? So we underwrite these deals to plan on holding them for 5, 10 years.
I love that, but I love that because, you speaking from experience doing this for 23 plus years. So, and you say the keyword that a lot of people, they don't take enough time, in my opinion, analyzing, which is underwriting the deal.
Yes.
Underwriting is so important, man. And also on top of that, so that you're not stuck in a deal and then all your cash now is tied up to one deal where another economy could crash, right? Another 2008 happened. Now, you know the drill. I have a lot of billionaire friends and multimillionaire friends, and that's when they go shopping, right? Yeah. I've done consulting for the top 1% around the world for the last 20 plus years, and they have 30% cash reserves. So when the shit hits the fan, sorry my French, but that's when they go shopping, right? The markets are red. I don't care if it's in stocks, real estate, or blockchain. That's when they go shopping. Because they have the 30% cash reserve to go buy when everybody's freaking out. I always tell people, when in doubt, zoom out. When everybody's freaking out, that's when you go out to shop. And so I love that. And I always tell people, like, fear stops when knowledge begins, right? It's what we're doing here, right? You guys know the drill. This podcast is free. I try to extract the best knowledge from my guests, like Phillip, so that you guys can walk out of here empowered. And then if you get stuck, if you don't know how to answer something, reach out. Phillip Warrick, the Phillip Warrick on IG, and reach out to the guy. Ask him a question. He's been doing this for quite a bit. You got to master the game, because when you master the game, guess what happened, guys? Risk becomes an illusion. It's no longer there because now you have the right knowledge. Now you're taking your time. You're underwriting. Somebody like Phillip, like myself, you get a second opinion, right? That second opinion, that extra step in underwriting that deal, a lot of people, they run out of cash. Okay, are you guys building your business credit? Mega pro tip, build your business credit. You never know when you're going to need to access some cash. This thing crashes it. Maybe you go into some hiccups in life. You're not able to refinance or borrow any money. But if you've been building your business credit, now you have access to some fund that we can go out, buy a piece of land, subdivide it, start building there as a group, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses, huge folks in 30, 20 doors and below. So there's plenty of money to be made. But again, knowledge, right? Knowledge, proximity is power. And speaking of that, let's talk a little bit about that, about mentorship and mindset, Phillip, because I mean, you are a best-selling author and a mentor. You've been helping a lot of people in the real estate. You and I know each other for a long time.
Yeah.
Why do you believe coaching is non-negotiable, even for a seasoned investor?
It's a must, man. Like if you don't have somebody to bounce your ideas off and you're just going off your own knowledge, you're going to make mistakes, right? Or it's just going to take you longer to get to where you're trying to get. We first met at a certified high performance coach with Brendan Burchard, right? So I'm a certified high performance coach with Brendan. And, like I said, I've been 25 years in this journey of real estate, and every single day I'm still listening to audios, podcasts, learning from my mentors, right? I have mentors, high level mentors. If it weren't for JT Fox, I wouldn't have my own podcast. JT Fox is the world's #1 wealth and business coach and branding coach, right? And, I've got him on dial if I need to call him, right? And we invest together on deals and do deals together, right? But to surround yourself around people that are achieving the success that you desire to achieve is going to make it a lot faster, right? If we stayed in the favelas, we wouldn't be able to have these conversations, right? And we have to surround ourselves. And I just like the quote says, like you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with, right?
That's real talk, brother. That's real talk, man. You guys know the drill, man. What I always tell people, never, ever give up, man. That little Carlos selling that bread on the streets, he just kept having dreams bigger than, all the fears and all the doubts. And then one day, eventually we meet, right? Our mentors, we meet our friends. And then eventually we become friends with our mentors. Eventually we start training mentorship with our own mentors. The student becomes the mentor, but never forget where we come from. Right. And then we challenge one another. We get better. We challenge our mentors. Right. I always tell Fortune 50 and 500 companies when I come in to do like a consulting deal or a workshop, training their sales teams. Okay. What kind, let's challenge your advisors here for a second. Let's raise the bar in this. Let's raise the freaking standards, right? If you are behind your goals, if you're having a hard time, all the folks over here listening to us on LinkedIn, X, and Facebook, if you are a SMB, if you are in sales, if you are trying to get a hold of business owners and people on the top of the chain at Fortune 50 and 500 companies, how creative are you getting to reach out to those guys? There are things that we can do and get very creative. You guys know me. I rode the bicycle into the Oscars, 6'5", 300-pound gorilla on a little Barbie 7-year-old little girl's bike just to break their pattern. And guess what I had in that bicycle? I had the little bread in there. I had the bread, and I threw bread at celebrities because I remind them that it's more to life than money, fame, or how many goddamn commas are in the bank account. It's how are we treating people when nobody's watching? At the end of the day, when it's between us and God, how much are we giving back and donating above and beyond the tax bracket? Yeah, Phillip and I can help you make so much money. No doubt. We've been doing it for 20 plus years. It's out there. You can look it up. We have the receipts to prove it. But at the end of the day, it's like Phillip said, we got to put ourselves around others. I don't care if you are a super seasonal investor. Keep pushing. Keep investing in yourself. Put yourself around others. There are a bunch of deals. We go through deals all the time. People bring us deals all the time. I'm over here in Silicon Valley. Chris is out there. Phillip is out there. I had a friend of mine, man. They got into a bad car accident. So praying for you, my brother, and everything will be well. So it's crazy. Like this happened just before the show. So you never know, right? It's always something. But I want to talk about syndication secrets, Phillip.
There you go.
Syndication lets, small investors play big. What is the dark truth about partnerships most people ignore? And how do you turn strangers into allies? Let's give them some gold in here.
All right. So yeah, I think one of the things that people ignore, and they shouldn't ignore, right, is making sure that you're getting with somebody that has the experience first and foremost, right? Like you working with somebody that has the receipts, that has the track record to actually, raise capital and to do deals together. And I built my business over the 25 years working with private money lenders, right, which is essentially friends, family, people that we have done business with, people in the community that know us that like what we do and see what we're doing, where they can invest together. And I understood early on that not everybody wants to be a real estate entrepreneur like me, right? It's almost like You don't want to become that friend or family that nobody answers the phone with because they think you're selling them the next multi-level marketing thing, or, hey, get into this, get into that, right? So if they want to get into real estate, but they don't have the time to do it full time because they have their own businesses or their own success or their own job, that we can partner with them and bring them in on our deals, right? And so by bringing them into our deals, it allows them to earn returns secured by real estate and partner with us on what we're doing. And so right now it is what it is. I've got 2 funds active that we're raising capital for, right? One is for sophisticated accredited investors, the guys with the big money, because we also understand that the guys with big money, they don't have the time to go operate and find the deals and source the deals. I'm reviewing deals every single day from students and people that bring deals to me to help them evaluate, get them under contract to see if it's a good deal. And oftentimes we're the ones buying those from them, right? So it's a great opportunity to get with somebody that has the experience, that knows how to underwrite, that knows how to get returns for our investors that they can't get, on their own because they have full-time responsibilities.
I love that, brother. I love that. You know what I always say from this stage, bro, is money follows trust.
Yes.
Build a tribe, not just a portfolio. That's like real talk. What do you say? Like having that alliance with hard money lenders and putting yourself out there. I've been honored to speak in all these major cities where a lot of old money is involved, right? You got New York, LA, San Francisco, Toronto. You got Monaco, Dubai, Qatar. All those are major cities where people are talking about, right? For a lot of you guys over here listening to us, you are like Phillip. You're out there. You have your funds. You're raising money. You're putting deals together. Being around those cities, that's where a lot of people are getting together right now, having meetings and coffees and breakfast. And even if you're starting small, do a meetup, bringing investors together, bringing the real estate people together, come up with a cool slogan, throw a meetup, go ask a local winery, a local fancy restaurant in your town to use their business and just gotta get to know all the local investors in your area, right? Even though, Carlos, I'm not like you and Phillip. I don't know. They were like, hey, we all started from zero.
That's
Phillip
right.
and his dad was out there in Brazil in the streets. They were like in the middle class area. I was in the favela selling the bread. But look, we all came from nothing. We didn't came from rich. It was not handled to us. Phillip and I, we just put ourselves around groups and all the investors, all the hard money lenders, all the influencers, and we became friends. Now they know us. Now we have them on our pocket dial that we can call and have a conversation. We can bring a deal to the table. Hey, I'm working on this deal. We want to go halves. Whatever, right? Yeah. Somebody that perhaps want to go have some of this. Like Phillip said, not everybody, it's not for everybody, right? And that's something that I always bet at the beginning of my career. You cannot want more from somebody else than what you want for yourself. But it's 8 billion people. Let's call it 7 billion. People argue about those numbers, but let's just call it 7 billion people out there. There are a few people that are going to join your tribe. They're going to join Phillip's, my tribe, right? So just keep putting yourself out there. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about short-term versus long-term. Phillip, I mean, you juggle short-term rentals and long-term holds.
Yeah.
Which one forces you to think 10 years ahead and why?
You know what? So when you're talking about short-term rentals, we're talking about basically our fully furnished properties, right? So we do have a handful of properties that we have on Airbnb and VRBO and these kind of strategies where we're actually having guests that come in for 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, right? So they're short-term stays as opposed to a long-term tenant. Earlier, when we talked about underwriting our deals, we underwrite for long-term. Is this deal going to make sense as a long-term rental? Now, if I can go furnish it and increase the income by doing short-term rentals, we often will. One of the reasons I do that is because I like to hold our properties, like we talked about earlier, for 5 to 10 years. We may sell that property at some point. If I have a long-term tenant in that property, I have to wait for the lease to expire, or else I'm having to sell a tenant-occupied property to who? To an investor that doesn't want to pay retail, right? So I have to sell below market. And then if I want to sell that retail, I have to wait for that tenant's lease to expire and then get rid of them. And oftentimes with long-term tenants, when they move out a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, guess what? I got to repaint it, recarpet it, rehab it again, right? So doing short-term rentals, we have the houses fully furnished. They're always in tip-top shape because we got to get 5-star reviews from our guests, right? And they're always ready to sell. Whenever we choose to sell, we can sell it. We don't have to wait for a lease to expire. We can list it even while we're still generating income on short-term rentals. But if you're also talking about short-term versus long-term, like, are we going to buy, fix, and flip in under a year, or are we going to buy and hold? I love to hold long-term because the profit center we talked about earlier is appreciation. That property is going to go up in value. The depreciation tax write-offs that we get for holding long-term properties is better than paying capital gains on short-term income, in my opinion. But we do a mix of both. I mean, we do everything from buy, fix, and flip to buy and hold. And one thing I don't like to do, like, I go buy a house, fully renovate it. Why am I going to sell it? We just made all the improvements to the house. It's going to appreciate in value for 10 years. Nothing's going to break for 10 years. Why go sell that? So I like to hold as much as I can long-term. And that gets all of our investors and us a better return over time.
No, I love that, man. I love that. I have a lot of friends like you in real estate, and I'm passionate. You guys know I've been doing real estate farming in Brazil for a long time, and I always dealing with crazy stuff down there. I talk about on the show, invasions. People invade my properties. You guys know my stepfather was murdered because of farm dealings, and it's already running the family, you know. And you know, I'm dealing with kidnapping issues this past year in Brazil, spending a lot of time there. And putting all that behind, now I want to focus a lot more over here in US, in Mexico. I like Tulum area. A lot of my friends from Dubai are investing down there, building resorts. And in US, a lot of opportunity here in US as well. I have been talking to a group of investors recently in traveling around the major cities in US, where we are focusing on small doors, 30 units and below. We buy land, subdivide the land. We're building 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 units and below. And we are teaching people how to do that. Anybody here listening to us, you want to learn more about that, definitely send me a text, 30 doors and below. We can talk a little bit more about that. It's a great group of investors are coming together, focusing on developing them. Because I don't like to buy and flip. You inheriting other people's crap, right? God knows what happens in the property, in the house. I like buying land, subdivided, and building on top. Especially if you see a new build nearby, a McDonald's, a hospital, airport, they developing the roads, is giving you a sign. It's giving you, look at that. Those are, when I see those things from me, it's dollar signs. Okay. Let me see if I can find some land around here, especially like rural land, buy it, subdivide it, turn into small parcels, and then go and build 2 plexes, 4, 6, 8 units, right? Big retirement down the line. Something that I've been teaching people and being around other investors, and we are teaching people how to do those things. Anybody who want to learn that, definitely DM me, 30 doors and below. We can definitely talk about it. But tell me something, Phillip. What's one deal that nearly broke you, and how did they rewrite your rules of success? Because we all have those stories, right? I do many, and that's how we learn. That's how we became good at what we do. But in your case, brother, what is one deal that nearly broke you, and how did it rewrite your rules to success?
Yeah, so I would talk about the buy, fix, and flip strategy as one where if you're in a hard money loan, like we talked about earlier, right, where we buy a property, we're renovating, our plan is to sell it in 3 to 6 months. That's the most dangerous place, in my opinion, to live in the real estate business, right? Because you're basically using hard money capital that has to be paid off. It's usually really high interest rate payments, and you can't cash flow that property on a hard money loan. Your only exit strategy with hard money is to sell the property. Now, if everything's perfect, maybe you can refinance it, but when interest rates are high, you can't refinance it because now the payments are higher than what the rental income can support. So I remember doing a deal in Galveston, and we were in the middle of this major historic renovation on a house that was a survivor of the 1900 storm that basically wiped out Galveston. It took longer than expected. It went over budget, right? All of these things worked against us. And then March of 2022, interest rates started going up. So by the time we finished that renovation, the rates were higher. Our plan was to refinance it and keep it as a short-term rental, which we did, but the interest rates were so high that we're losing money every month on that deal, right? So that's a position that you don't want to find yourself in, right? And what we do different now is we leverage debt. We leverage existing financing. So we're still out there looking for sellers that need to sell or want to sell, but they don't have the luxury of listing and marketing and selling the house through a real estate agent because they might be going through a divorce. They might be behind on payments. They might not have built up enough equity because they just got the house 3 or 4 years ago. And so instead of getting a loan, a hard money loan to pay off their mortgage, what we do different is we actually take over the payments on their existing mortgage, take over the payments on the loan that they got 3, 4 years ago, which was at 3%, 4%, 5%. And those are the deals that we target. So by doing that, it's putting us in a better position to make sure that, hey, these deals are going to last over time. We're not going to get caught where we have to sell because we're taking over these payments and we don't have to pay it off like a hard money lender in 6 months.
Yeah, that's I love that strategy, brother. I love that. And one thing that I always tell people, Philip, to be very careful with like international real estate deals. That's why I know that you heavily here in US.
Yep.
I done a lot of things over here in US now, and then I went internationally. I learned it the wrong way, right? I had to deal with people invading my properties, cartels, and all the bad apples, and they all work together, right? The governments, the police in third world countries, they don't make much money, right? A cop in South America make less than $1,000 a month. Imagine what that person would do, for cash when that is not enough to pay the bills. So be careful, guys. Investing in third world countries, even Mexico. Philip and I had a great talk about, right? I've done some things in Tulum, but when you buy things in Mexico, understand what's happening around you. There are a bunch of investors coming in from Dubai and Qatar, and they also building all these fancy resorts. So yeah, it might sound great, buy a penthouse for like 200 grand, and you walk outside your penthouse and it's a waterfall, and the fancy restaurant, and you have butlers and all these people, and all the convenience stores and supermarkets all built in the community. But if you buying that, planning on selling, like they say, you can sell in 2-3 years and you can double your money. No. Let me tell you the truth. There are dozens of other builders around building and building and building. So it will become difficult to sell it. So understand your market. Understand where you are. If you are just starting, and if you are an American, reach out to people like Philip, like myself, and then start here. Start in US. Do not go venture in third world countries, because there are plenty things out there. And I keep seeing them targeting people here in the US and putting those fancy ads, cheaper penthouses and 1, 2, 3 bedrooms, retire, blah, blah, blah. Just be careful, guys. I don't want to see nobody getting hurt here. Understand your landscape is so important. And anybody here that's been failing on real estate, just know this, that failure isn't the end, is the tuition for mastery. Somebody write that and type that below. I had somebody here on Josiah. Yeah, the sub-2 is a great strategy. Thank you, my friend. And then we have Trisha. Excellent. She's enjoying. Shout out to all the folks on LinkedIn over here live with us and listening. We have a heavy following on LinkedIn. We get like, some weeks I'm getting like 100,000 plus to 300,000 plus views on our weekly posts. The podcast is taking off, several thousand downloads per episode. Without you guys here, I see a bunch of people live watching us. Without you guys here, we couldn't do this, guys. As you guys know, the podcast is free. All that I ask you guys is to go on Apple, go on Spotify, go on iHeartRadio, type in carlosinspireshow.com, and then put in a 5-star review. We are a 5-star review, top 100 podcasts on Apple for business, marketing, branding, and the things they are trending. And I appreciate you guys liking, tagging somebody here that's into real estate. Follow my brother, Phillip Warrick. The guy is a legend with so much experience, as you can see him answering over here some great questions that I have prepared for him. And speaking of great questions, anybody here who is into capital raising, let's talk a little bit about that, because brother Philip, you have raised in bull and bear markets.
Yes.
I seen you working. You know what I mean? I love raising money as well in both markets. And you and I know stuff, but you've done it on both. What's your unspoken rule for convincing someone to bet on you?
Wow, an unspoken rule for convincing.
Yes, sir. Because a lot of people listening to us over here, they're struggling to raise money, right? Whether it's for real estate, their funds, or their nonprofits. I have people all the time coming to me from nonprofits since COVID. Churches, nonprofits, every time coming to me asking for, hey, Carlos, can you help? Can you help? And I love when I have my very experienced influencers come on the show like yourself and going deep into the unspoken rule for convincing someone to bet on you, because I think that can help a lot of people here listening to us. And guys, you guys listen to us live. As Philip thinking about this, I want you guys to type in any questions you guys might have for us on the show. Maybe you have a question about real estate. Maybe I like to always ask people, what is a burned question that you don't have an answer to right now? Just put it out there. Type in below. This is live. We're streaming everywhere right now, live. You guys know me. I bring you guys on this stage. I put in your name here, your questions. You never know who's watching. There are hundreds of people live here watching this right now. And there will be, 100,000, 200,000 later watching the replay. So you never know. And then, I'll bring your name. I'll you your question, your branding here on the stage. But what would you say to them, my brother, that your unspoken rule for convincing someone to bet on you?
So I'll touch on a few key points that you made a minute ago, and you were talking about not investing in these other areas that you're not familiar with, right? And I did a whole speech at Real Estate Masters back in March of last year here in Houston in front of thousands of people, and my speech was really close to home. And I said, look, you can build a multi-figure empire in your local market. Where do you want to invest? I want to invest where you're local, right? So making sure that I can underwrite deals that I'm familiar with this area. If I go venture off into other states and other cities that I'm not as familiar with, I might have a little bit more risk. Another thing that I want to do is make sure that you're investing capital that you're willing to leave out long term. We may buy, fix, and flip the property. We may hold that property for 5 years or 10 years, depending on what the market's doing. My unspoken rule is to buy properties in a way to where I don't have to sell it. Right? If I'm forced to sell in a certain period of time where there's a balloon or there's a 6 months or a 12-month short-term deal, I have to sell no matter what the market's doing. But if I buy in a way that I can hold that property and sell when the market's right, sell when we choose to, sell when we're ready to pull our capital out to redeploy that into a bigger or better project, that's what we want to do. And make sure that when you're underwriting the deal, it meets those profit centers and it's going to return a great return. Another point that you made is partnering. Right? If you don't have the time, but you have the capital, partner with somebody that's going to share with you in the rewards, right? So my private money lenders and private money partners that invest with me, they put up the capital, we do the work, and we share in the profits, right? So everybody wins. And, the more profit the deal makes, the more everybody makes, right? So we're equally yoked in that goal of making sure that we're making sound investments that are going to return a good investment for everybody.
I love that, brother. I love that. You know what I always say, Philip, from the stage is that people don't invest in ideas, they invest in conviction. Let that sink in for a minute. And I'll give you guys a pro tip here in real estate. Like Philip is talking about the timing. Think about everything being built around you right now. You guys are commuting to work. Pay attention to rural lands. Whenever you see a little open land and you see a bunch of new builds happening, a bunch of things being built, imagine buying that land. Now, go talk to the city and the municipalities and subdividing that land into multiple lots. Yes. So now imagine, even if you don't have the money to buy that land, you just put a deposit. Normally, most lands are owned free and clear. Now imagine you do a little check deposit, tell the owner, here's a little cool percentage. But here's the contingents. I only buy this land if I can get the city to approve and me to subdivide this lot. So now you bought that land, let's say with a $5,000 deposit, and the land is worth $50,000. The city would allow you to subdivide into 4 or more lots. Now you can sell each lot, let's say for $30,000. How much did it cost you? $50. How much are you selling for? $200,000. A quick $150 profit. Not a financial advisor, but I told you guys earlier, I made people wealthy and wiser, and I walk the talk. I like to give practical examples here in the show, whatever I talk about, whether it's real estate, marketing, branding, blockchain, whatever. And just imagine for a second, guys, that's a big pro tip in there, buying land, subdividing, and then finding people that have the cash, if you don't, to go and build it, put in new builds, especially if you're seeing massive new build developing, happening around that area. Massive pro tip over here for anybody that want to venture into real estate. Like I told you guys earlier, if you guys want to learn more about that, just reach out. 30 doors and below. I'm assembling a good team that is all we're going to be focusing on this next couple of years, buying, developing 30 doors and below. So a little pro tip. That's one of my unspoken rules that I don't talk about often, that I want to give you guys some value here on the show. Just like I have my guests bring their A game, and Philip is like bringing it, baby. I love it. And my brother, speaking of bringing a game in our daily habits, you challenge our artists to learn something, new daily. You always talk about those things. And what's that the 5-minute habit that has the biggest ROI for you in your life, Philip? Because you constantly, like myself, you love challenging people.
That's
You
right.
know,
Yes.
what is yours?
I would say the one habit that if I miss it, my day doesn't go the way I planned, right? And that's getting up at 4:30 a.m. out of bed, getting up and investing that first hour and a half, 2 hours in myself, getting up before everybody else, listening to an inspirational podcast, a spiritual podcast, whatever the case may be, having, my Bible study time, and then getting on the exercise bike, whatever exercise I'm going to do for that day, getting my sweat on. And while I'm sweating and doing my exercise, that's when I'm listening to my educational trainings, right? That's when I'm listening to podcasts. That's when I'm getting inspired for the day. And no matter what time of day I get up, I do that routine, right? But the days that I get up at 4:30 and get that out of the way by 6:30, 7 o'clock, when the rest of the world is starting to wake up, man, I'm ready. I'm fired up for the day. And it sounds hard, right? It sounds difficult, and it is, right? Those days where it's cold and I want to snuggle up my wife and stay in bed a little bit longer, it's tempting, right? But I know that the days that I get out of bed, it's going to be such a better day. I'm going to go out there ready, prepared to conquer the world and change lives. And that's what it's all about, man. If we just focus on doing this for ourselves and we don't focus on the higher calls and, people that we can help, people whose money we can put to work for them, helping people in the favelas of Brazil or whatever your philanthropy, your mission may be, you won't have the success that you deserve, that you are working for, right? We have to focus on a bigger why and put purpose behind our passion.
Amen, brother. Amen, man. I love it, brother. I love it. I always talk about this, small disciplines, right? Whenever we repeat them over and over again, you create empires. They are going to be here last long beyond. I always tell my friends, man, they have like airplanes and cars, like, stop putting this shit on the social media. You just like, it doesn't work. You're dividing, you're creating crap. It's like, what are you doing? When nobody's watching, when there's no camera, people that were out there helping on the streets and that veteran struggling, sitting on the floor, begging for money. And you show up and you give that guy a blanket, a hat. Inside the hat is a couple of $100. Go get yourself a nice hotel, for a couple of nights. And just give that guy a book. You never know. You just never know, right? Like there's this most stuff. But I love that, brother Philip. I love that. And anybody, all my 4:30s, my 4 o'clock, my 3:30 CEOs, type in below me, baby. And after me, type in what time, 3:30, 4:35. Let me know where you guys at. I love getting up around that time as well, 4:34. And I go and I drag myself into the tub full of ice. Whenever I'm a big boy, right? 6'5", 300 pounds. Sometimes the back is hurting. I don't like taking any pills. I don't believe in that stuff. I just go in the tub when I'm hurting any pain, just drag my big butt in there, and I stay there for 20 to 30 minutes under ice. It sucks. It's not fun. I'm telling you guys right now, my brother, ice, man. You already know it. You can say you love this shit, but you are lying like hell. It's not fun. It's not cool, but you gotta do it even though you don't feel like it. Let's fucking go. Pardon my French. But brother, let's talk about legacy. I mean, if your portfolio, Philip, vanished tomorrow, what is the one skill you would use to rebuild it, and why?
Man,
the whole thing, brother, wiped
whole
out.
thing is gone tomorrow.
It's
Man.
going tomorrow. What's the one skill you would use to rebuild it, and why? Because we have a lot of people over here that are listening to us. They're struggling, right? They're still recovering from COVID. I got I work with a bunch of athletes, celebrities over the years. A bunch of those guys are broke right now. They still recovering since COVID. After the studio shut down back in 2020, they still recovering. They had a huge lifestyle. They couldn't keep up with their bills. They foreclosed on their houses. They are broke. And they're listening to us right now. Those are celebrities, people that you guys are watching on Netflix. They are broke, literally. You guys know me. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm not going to say your name. But, I know you guys love real estate. You know what I mean? So today, we have a legend here in real estate. And they took everything from you, brother. And now you gotta rebuild it. And like a lot of people out there, they are looking into getting the game. And they want to rebuild it. What's up, Tom? We got people here live. Everybody's fired up. But what would you do, my friend? What's that one skill set, Mr. Warrick?
Knowledge is power, right? Knowledge is power. You can take it all away. It can go all away, but we can start over. And if you remember, I started with no cash, no credit, right?
Yep.
And you can start from nowhere. And you either have time or you have capital, right? or you have access to capital. So what I say is like, hey, find the capital, because when the capital is there, the deals are there, right? There's always opportunity to find deals below market that'll make sense as an investment, as long as you have the capital, right? Or access to capital to go do that. In partnering with the capital, right? Before, when I first started, it was one deal at a time. It was, raising a little bit of money and then go find a deal for that money, right? And paying them a fixed return, right? We usually would pay 8, 10, 12% returns to our private money lenders, and that was great. But now we've shifted the focus to actually partnering, and that's where the fund structure comes in, because they're putting capital in the fund, and now we get to go find great deals to deploy and to hold those properties for as long as we choose to within the fund structure, 5-7 years, or into the next fund. We could always roll it over. And having that access to capital and being able to partner with the capital and bring them in on the deal and let them benefit from all of these profit centers instead of just the one, right? That's really the game changer, in my opinion, for really growing to get to the next level and getting into the big boy leagues, to where, we could be talking about doing these, 30 doors or below inside the fund structure, because our fund can go out and buy multifamily. It can do, development. It can do single family, right? So, but yeah, I think to answer your question, man, if it took it all away, I would just, start over with great people, get coaching, get mentors, and find those people that have the capital, that believe in you, right? Because they can't take the knowledge and everything that I've learned over 25 years away. You can take the whole portfolio away. We can start fresh. You know what I mean? Give us a fresh start. We'd probably do things different and better and faster.
No, man, I love that, brother. I love that. You guys see another time, right? Like, I love a strategy that I like. You put in those signs around the towns. Struggling to pay your mortgage, I buy your house cash. Put your phone number nice and bold.
Oh,
And
yeah.
even if you don't have the money to make the sign, you can just type it, right? And put that, make that. I mean, ideally, you want to invest, buy a nice little sign, get creative, put a bunch of signs in your city, kind of being well known in the city. You are the guy, the real estate local investor that buy houses cash. You're struggling to pay your mortgage, call me, text me, right? And then apply the strategies, help the person pay off the mortgage. If they cannot afford it, buy it off them. At least they don't have to have a foreclosure. Some of these people, they cannot even refinance, so they're going to walk away with nothing. You're actually helping them. You're giving them a new start. You're buying the house off them. You're letting them live there for a couple of months to get everything, get it together, right? It happens. We all go through struggles. But again, it's getting creative. Oh, because I don't have the money. I bet you if you go put a bunch of signs, and if you find a bunch of people that want to sell it to you, you can call Phillip, you can call me and be like, okay, let me show me what you got. Just like think about all the local investors that are in your area. Everybody, man, people that see successful people have time. Successful people, they have cash reserves that they're always looking for deals. It's like, what are you willing to do it for, right? Like, get to know the people. Like, if you are like myself, you're liking to buy land, subdivide, get to know the people that are surveying the properties, right? Get to know the surveyors, man. They are great sources. Do you guys know that you can partner with the folks that are surveying that land, even if you cannot go to the local meetings? For the people that are around the city that makes the decisions, that you can rely on that person to go on those meetings for you, right? You build relationships with the surveys, the appraisers, the title companies, get to know the lenders, take them out for lunch and breakfast if you have the means. Like, get to know people in your city. Home court advantage, baby. All right, enough with the, but no, I love it, brother. I love it. And so imagine you are mentoring your 20-year-old, let's make it 25-year-old self. What's the one sentence you tattoo on his arm?
Man.
I told you I was going to bring in the game today.
You bring the heat, but for sure is mentors, partners, and you know what I mean? So making sure that you're working. So when I got started, man, I remember this being spoken from the stages, and back then you had to pay $5,000 to get in these rooms to learn real estate, right? For a week. And then
big time.
And they kept the information really close to the chest, and I remember them constantly saying, "Go find the deal, right? Go put the signs up, get the deal. You don't have the capital, bring it to me. I'll buy it from you." And I'm sitting here thinking, man, they just want to pay me $5,000 and go make 40, 50,000. That doesn't seem fair, right? So I struggled through the first few years, and I held those deals myself and managed to get them and flip them and to make the 50 instead of the 5. But what I wish I would have done back then is went ahead and partnered with some of these guys that had 20 years experience already under their belt and make the $5,000, but learn from those deals with them, right? And stay in the deal with them and partner with them. So the most important thing is like, hey, vet who you're going to for mentorship. Make sure that they know, like you said, they have proven track record, they have the influence already in their community, and make money together, right? We can go so much further together.
I love that. Developing your own like mentors and
Mentor.
proximity, like understand that it's fun. Hey, Philip, remember the learning annex back in the early
Oh, man.
2000s? Oh, dude, I remember going to those seminars. I was like, probably, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. And it was Trump, Tony Robbins, the whole gang. I
Yeah.
remember being part of Trump University, my brother Trump.
Yeah.
Learned a lot from that brother, man. Him and his father, they know a thing or two about real estate, you know. And I learned a lot from them. And I remember those early, the 2000s, the whole negative amortization, the whole mess that they led the country into collapse in real estate. All the realtors giving and the loan officers giving people those negative amortization loans, 1%. Big old mention that you're paying $2,000 and that loan's gonna reset to 7,000-8,000 a few years later, and they didn't tell people that. And then we got into the mess. I was like, wow, I was learning to become a real estate lawyer back then. And I speak multiple languages. So I always around brokers, investors, and I knew every single row, from the appraiser to the realtor, to the broker, to the underwriter, to the title company person. I knew all the rows because I wanted to understand every piece of the business so I could make better decisions. I could make my deals go through faster. And man, good old time, man, back in those days. See, I'm on my 40s now, man. It just gave me the memories. Oh, wow. I was not even going to go there. I just got the memories now, talking about mentors and proximity and being around other people. Man, hey, Philip, before we go, man, wow, we're almost a whole hour here. What is the best place that they can follow up with you, man? You brought so much knowledge. I bet you they're going to want to see you again. Let me know how much you guys love Philip. Type in below. You guys know the drill. I seen you guys over here with us. A bunch of people, over 100+ people here live the entire time. I love it. And what is the best place that you hang out, Philip? Online? Is it Instagram, LinkedIn, your website, where they can follow up with you, but if they have any questions, if they want to, get to know you more and learn about all the wisdom that you have, my friend.
Yeah. So I'm on all the social medias, right? Facebook, the Phillip Warrick Real Estate on Instagram. And, we do Power Mondays every Monday. One of my partners in one of the funds that we're partners in, Power Mondays, where we look over creative deals, right? We talk about sub-2 deals. We talk about these profit centers, review deals live. And it's basically a free place for people to come hang out and learn more about the deals that we're doing, right? And, somebody mentioned earlier about the sub-2 being a great strategy, and it is, right? And it's kind of mainstream right now because it is a hot topic, because of some major influencers out there, of which I'm part of those communities. But the first deal that I bought subject to was in December of 2003, not 2023, brother, 2003, right? 21, 22 years ago. I'm still friends with that seller. Believe it or not, we've done deals together over the years as well. And he was in that situation. He was behind on payments, and instead of paying off his loan, we reinstated his loan, took over the payments. And that's one of the secret benefits of when you buy a house that way from somebody that's behind on payments. Like, we're helping rebuild their credit by keeping that mortgage in place and making those payments on time. But listen, we do those deals live every Monday on Power Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time. So yeah, anybody can join us there. But phillipwarrick.com is my website. You can definitely go there and visit my website. I'll have some freebies there where you can download a free copy of my book, Flip Your Way to Financial Freedom. Like you mentioned, I'm co-author of best-selling author of Think Big, another book that I did in collaboration with some amazing people. And man, I'm just here to serve. So reach out. Let's have a 15-minute little call and see how we can work together. And whether you have capital that you want to deploy, that you want to put to work and invest, or if you want to learn more about finding these deals and doing it on your own, right? We're there to teach and most likely joint venture and do deals together. That's what we're.
I love it, brother. Phillip Warrick, baby. You guys follow him at the Phillip Warrick on Instagram, Phillip Warrick on LinkedIn, and then phillipwarrick.com, and check it out, my brother Phillip. Highly recommend looking through his books. The guy's a wealth of knowledge, 23+ years in the game. And I respect the hustle when people are doing this for a long time and have the receipts to prove it. And Phillip, the final question of the show is something that I ask every person here. It's 70 years from now,
Okay.
you are 100 years old. It's your eulogy. Your best friend is going to read it. And he's going to say, the Phillip Warrick was ... In your own words, my friend, who was Phillip Warrick?
That's a great question, man. That's a great question. Phillip Warrick was genuine. And this is a tough one. It's a tough one. You got me on the spot there, Carlos. I say live your legacy, right? I heard once that, if you make it to the top and you look around and you're alone, you did it wrong. How many people did you help along the way? How many people did you bring with you? That's my goal. That's my legacy. And to be able to leave, something behind that's bigger than me, bigger than I can accomplish on my own. And, I had this vision back in the early 2000s after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and playing the cash flow quadrant or the cash flow game that Rich Dad put out. And I created a 501c3 nonprofit organization called Cash Flow for Jesus, right? We talked about earlier that I grew up on the mission field and I felt like beggars. And I feel like my parents had to come off the mission field to raise capital, right? To go out and do the Lord's work. The Lord called my mom and dad to preach, to share the gospel, not to raise capital, right? So my vision with Cash Flow for Jesus has been to be able to give to, churches, people, whatever cause that we choose to give to, not just a one-time contribution, right? But passive income through real estate investments, through this philanthropy. And so, that's my goal, is to just, change people's lives along the way and leave a legacy that's bigger than what I could have done on my own. And we can do that together. So yeah.
I love that, brother. I love that, brother. I appreciate. Look at it. We had somebody here say amen. Shout out, man, to our live listeners. You guys are here with us the entire time on a Wednesday. You guys know that we record this show live the weekdays, and then after a few weeks, we release for podcasts. And I appreciate you guys, man. Our live listeners, if you're here later on the replay, shout out. My boy Joseph saying amen. Tabata, amazing. Josiah with the sub 2. He loves the sub 2 strategy. Trisha, excellent. Shout out to everybody here live with us. And Phillip, brother, I know you bring it. You bring the heat. You bring the knowledge. I appreciate you, brother. This is going to be an episode that you and I and our listeners here with us live and our listeners later here on the replay will take it to the grave. And you showing us that real estate isn't just about bricks and rent. It's about building a true life where every decision compounds, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. And, to our listeners, what is one wall you tear it down this week to lay a new foundation? Type in below. I want to hear from you guys. What is that one wall that you guys are going to tear it down to build a new foundation? Just like Phillip, just like myself, we start from nothing. And you guys know the drill. The days that breaks us are truly the days that makes us.